under the age of 50 plan to vote for former President Trump in November.
Especially for younger black men, there is a frustration. But it's not necessarily frustration with Vice President Harris, and it's not even frustration with the Democratic Party. Frankly, it's a frustration of the pace of progress in America.
To compare, during the 2020 presidential election, roughly 90% of black voters supported President Biden. Well, here in Georgia, we're just a month away from the start of early voting for the 2024 election. The deadline to register to vote is also swiftly approaching. Fox 5's Joy Dukes has more on how you need to prepare ahead of those deadlines.
Yeah, we are just 30 days out from the start of early voting here in Georgia and 50 days out from Election Day. I spoke with the executive director of a voter advocacy group based here who says right now the focus for voters should be on making a plan. The 2024 presidential election is swiftly approaching.
We're 50 days out.
And in the midst of a shifting political landscape, the votes of Georgia residents have never been more sought after.
You have the power to pick presidents. You have the power to decide who are your elected officials.
With early voting beginning October 15th and the October 7th deadline to register coming up, it's a race against time for voter advocacy groups like Georgia Stand Up, says Executive Director Deborah Scott.
We want people to check their registrations. We want people to get out to register, to vote, and then to help other people to register.
Scott says the last weeks before polls open is a time for residents to check their status on the Secretary of State's website.
Sometimes you might have moved, you need to change your address.
It's also an important time for residents to research the issues and come up with a plan.
Have a vote plan, know what day you want to go, make sure that you know what precinct, what polling location you're supposed to go to.
All steps, Scott says, can help voters avoid the possibility of issues that may arise on November 5th and ensure their vote is counted. And Tuesday is National Voter Registration Day. Scott says they will be at Clark Atlanta University's campus talking to students and faculty who aren't already to try and encourage them to get registered. That's the latest here in Fulton County. Joy Dukes, Fox 5 News.
Well, 3 Americans have been arrested in Venezuela after they were accused of plotting to assassinate the president there. 3 others were also detained during the investigation.
Wow.
Venezuelan officials allege the assassination plot was led by the CIA and that a U.S. Navy SEAL was also involved. But the U.S. State Department rejects those claims, calling it categorically false. They did confirm a member of the U.S. military was arrested in Venezuela last month, but did not say if they were involved with the alleged plot. Well, 24 people were killed in Haiti after a fuel truck exploded. Take a look at this video there. 40 others hospitalized after they were left severely injured. Officials in Haiti say the victims were mostly men, but there were at least 3 women and a child involved. Haiti's prime minister is set to visit the site and encourage a range of evacuations. A state of emergency is in place nationwide. Let's take you to the Middle East, where a long-range missile from Yemen landed in a rural part of Israel today, triggering air raid sirens in the region. This includes Israel's international airport. A spokesperson for the Israeli military says Houthi rebels have been sending drones and missiles towards Israel since the start of the war. But so far, no group or country has claimed responsibility for today's attack. Well, hearings are set to begin tomorrow into the 2023 Titan submersible disaster. We all remember that. The submarine suffered a catastrophic implosion in June of 2023 while diving to the wreckage site of the Titanic. It killed everyone on board. Investigators want to find out just exactly how it happened and who may be at fault. Fox News correspondent Madison Scarapino has more.
Single answer to lawmakers on what was going on, that then she had to resign, even though it did take her a couple of weeks. It's also worth mentioning, Steve, I think it's interesting that if we look at the rhetoric, the political rhetoric that we're seeing coming from lawmakers and also obviously in the presidential race, if we look back at the debate this same week, and a political event like the attempted assassination of former president was mentioned only once during a 90-minute debate on one of the most important issues in the country. So, of course, there's something skewed there that we're not paying attention that there is political violence in our country, and not enough is being done that,
And to your point, Louise, when you say mentioned once, it was not brought up by the moderators.
Correct. So the only time during the entire debate that the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, the first one, was mentioned was in a rebuttal from the former president, when he said to Vice President Kamala Harris that he probably took a bullet to his head because of the things that they're saying about him. And I think that's what I wanted to point out with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' tweets, because they talk about there's lawmakers on one end one day saying that there's no room for political violence, but every other day they are posting and commenting that the other side is the end of all ends for this country. So of course that does raises up the tensions in the country.
And I don't know if we can go so far right now to say that we are entering third world territory,
Dangerous
but you
rhetoric.
follow South America and Central America very closely. You're actually, born in Venezuela, so it's a country that you've seen go from the peak of kind of capitalism to the bottom of socialism. And so are you seeing any types of eerie similarities in how political discourse can evolve into a very dangerous place?
Well, I think that I don't mean to be highlighting the House Minority Leader's tweets, but this is the leader of House Democrats posting that Trump is Project 2025 when it's been already mentioned several times by the former president. It's also been verified that he has nothing to do, that this is an independent project by the Heritage Foundation. So it's something that is untrue. That is, of course, creating division in the country. And the same thing with a Trump national abortion ban. There is no such thing as a Trump national abortion ban. So I think that the use of rhetoric is something that is in common with populist leaders in Latin America, at least from my experience. There's always the need to identify an enemy. And it's usually the oligarchs, at least in Venezuela, the case it was against the elite or the rich, or there's an enemy that people need to surround themselves and not question authority in order to defeat this enemy. And we're seeing that in American politics, and at least from my experience as someone who just came to this country looking for that American dream, was not expecting to see tribal politics and the use of rhetoric to gaslight an entire society into one way of thinking.
And Louise, in terms of divisive rhetoric and the media's responsibility to give the full story to their viewers, put into context for some of these things that we've heard. We hear some of the mainstream media outlets talking about a bloodbath that Trump referred to, or that he will become a dictator on day one. These things are sound bites that can be taken out of context, and they can in turn be used to kind of incite extremists like we saw today trying to take the former president's life.
Well, the comment you make about bloodbath was mentioned again during the debate, during an intervention by Vice President Kamala Harris, where she was warning the audience, the American public, that Trump had said if he didn't win, there was going to be a bloodbath in the country. That Trump had said that if he got elected, he was going to be a dictator in day one. And again, it's unfortunate that the moderators did not use their fact-checking time during the debate to fact-check the vice president. Those things are not correct. When President Trump mentioned a bloodbath, that soundbite, if you look a few seconds before, he was referring to an economic bloodbath of what would happen to industry and manufacturing here in the U.S., and it's taken out of context and then made into social media clips. And that's how most of the people nowadays, new generations, consume information, are in 30-second sound bites that are in social media and need to catch your attention with these big words: bloodbath, dictator, Project 2025, which we could not stop hearing about during the Democratic National Convention, and when in reality it has nothing to do with the president, the former president's campaign.
Luis Martinez will be checking in with you throughout the hour. Thank you so much for that commentary. In the meantime, we're going to take a very short break and stick with us for the special coverage of the second assassination attempt of the former president.